I made a quick demo record. I flew out to Vegas, went to his dressing room, and played it for him. He said, "Kid, that's really good." He said, "I'm going to do it." He would never say anything more than that. He would never elaborate. He was always Sinatra. And 2 months later, fade out, fade in, I get a call from a record studio in Los Angeles. He said, "Kid, listen to this." He took the phone, he put it next to the speaker, and I'm in New York listening. And I heard My Way completed for the first time. And I started crying.
I don't know where to begin with you because you've had such an amazing career. For people now, there are a lot of young folks who might not be familiar with you. And I thought, boy, they're in for it here. But where do we start? First of all, you were a huge teen idol. That was a little bit before my time. A gigantic teen idol. How did that happen for you? You're from Canada.
Yeah, born in Canada, raised in Canada. I was in school, wanted to be a journalist. My father wanted me to be a lawyer. Put me in an English class, a class with 40 girls to learn how to type in shorthand. I hated the shorthand. I got thrown out of shorthand, which was fine. Took up music. Then I started writing. I won some awards for my couple of my essays that I wrote. But while taking music, I became a big fan of music back then. And it evolved into me just starting to write at a young age. But I was very focused, which you had to be. And I can still remember the vibe that I had when I left home, what I was thinking, how focused I was. And then I realized when it happened for me that everybody around me was not sophisticated. And, you know, from the Everly Brothers, Buddy Holly, you name it, Chuck Berry, we were just a bunch of kids. We had a talent, but we were not sophisticated. Most people aren't. You know, you start getting into some kind of journey where you're successful and you're crawling along trying to deal with it, but you don't have any wisdom to deal with it. And ultimately you hope that you do so that you can deal with it.
I don't even know where to begin in your career. I mean, I know you from the 70s as I was growing up. You wrote My Way for your friend Frank Sinatra. Now, all of us, I think in some ways the greatest thing anybody can do is to do something that's so great. People don't even wonder who did it. They just assume it was always there. The same thing with the theme song from The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. You wrote that. Most people don't think like, oh, there's someone who wrote that. You wrote the lyrics to My Way, but specifically for Sinatra. Let's go there because that's just a monumental moment in both of your careers. I mean, he had already had 20 careers up to this moment. He's making some noise about retiring. What happened? This is 1968?
Well, it's 68. Prefacing that, it was Vegas, Rat Pack. I got to know him in the 60s. I hung around him. Let's not forget Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, very talented men. But up until 68, I was still writing. I was living in Europe, which I loved. I had the gravitas of being a writer because of The Tonight Show, The Longest Day, etc. So when I met him in Miami, where we used to work at the Fontainebleau Hotel, he was doing a film. I was performing. He said, "Kid," after the show. We all had nicknames. He called me the Kid, which I was. He said, "Come on to dinner. I want to talk to you." I go to dinner. At the end of the dinner, he said, "I'm quitting show business. I'm going to retire. I've had enough. Rat Pack's over. I'm being hassled by the FBI, and I'm tired. I'm getting out of here. But I'm going to do one more album with Don Costa." I introduced him to Frank back in the early 60s, and he made one of the best albums, I think, Frank's ever made, called Sinatra and Strings. So with that, and him telling me that he was quitting and retiring and believing him, I couldn't believe it. So I went back to New York, where I was living at the time. And I'm sitting in my apartment, and big thunderstorm outside. I'm sitting at my typewriter, which I did everything on. And I'm metaphorically starting to create where I wanted to go in terms of the content of the song. And I started metaphorically with, "And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain." And I started writing it as if he were writing it, and writing words I would never write as a craftsman, ate it up, spit it out. But these were the kind of words that he used. So I finished it 5 hours later. I called him at Caesar's Palace, where he was doing one of his last engagements. And I said, "Sir, I've got something I think you might like for the album." He said, "Bring it out." I made a quick demo record. I flew out to Vegas, went to his dressing room, and played it for him. He said, "Kid, that's really good." He said, "I'm going to do it." He would never say anything more than that. He would never elaborate. He was always Sinatra. And 2 months later, fade out, fade in, I get a call from a record studio in Los Angeles. He said, kid, listen to this. He took the phone, he put it next to the speaker, and I'm in New York listening. And I heard My Way completed for the first time. And I started crying. And my life changed at that point in terms of my craft of writing.
Now, this is a real writer. You're a real writer because you're able to put yourself in the mindset of someone else's voice. How do they phrase? What words do they use? It's just an amazing thing because the art involved in that. Tell us about the Tonight Show theme, because many of us, it's the wallpaper of our lives. We cannot imagine a world without the Tonight Show theme. Johnny Carson, how did that happen? What was the professional relationship in any event that leads you to the possibility of writing something like that? And what year was that?
Early 60s. I'm in England doing a TV special for Granada TV. And I realized in the pre-production, we had no comic value, no comedian value. And I said to the guys, we need a comic. And they started sending me a lot of film. So I get to about the 12th film, and I see this guy. He's got a kiddie show. He's got to go take care of these kids on television. So it was Johnny. And he walks in, and he has to deal with all of these 4, 5, 6 years old screaming. And his head, of course, is here. And it was a very funny bit. I said, that guy. Johnny flies over to England. He's on the show. I get to know him a little bit. Johnny was not the kind of guy you get to know fast. We go back to New York. I run into him 2 months later. Hey, Johnny, how you doing? Fine. What's up? Well, I'm going to do this. There's a show, Tonight Show. I'm going to do it for a couple of years. And, do you have any music? I want a new theme. I said, sure, So I had this melody. I've always got something hanging around. He said, it's just for about 15, 20 seconds. So I went in the studio and, put my vision down. Sent it to him. He said, I love it. Calls me back 2 days later. Said, Paul, we can't use it. There's a guy there that's been with the show, Skitch Henderson. And he doesn't want some kid taking over for him or writing the song. We can't use it. I said, gee, Johnny, I'm sorry about that. He said, by the way, John, if you want, I'll give you half of the writing royalties. I'll give you half the publishing. We'll split the song together. Fade out, fade in. Next day he called and said, you got it. It's on the show.
Unbelievable. And now, of course, you just seem so young. So I'm imagining that you've got lots of ideas and things popping in your head. The new thing is this album. Tell us about the new album.
Well, when COVID hit us all, unfortunately, our lives changed, obviously. And here I was at home, got closer to my family if that was possible. But what am I going to do with myself? I sat down and started writing. That's what I do. I'm a craftsman. I write. And I started writing in such a different way because I'd written. When I was a kid, I had to write. I lived rock and roll every hour, turned out albums all year. But I've had the luxury of sitting back and writing when I want. Now, all of a sudden, that's all I can do, stay home and write. So I started writing, and I finished about, 30 songs. And I realized I had an album here. And I started just writing eclectically, observation, socially, relationships, love, strongest emotion. And I said, wow, I've done something here I haven't done in a long time. So I just made a big effort to get it out. I made a very quick deal with a company I'm related to, Primary Wave. And it was just cathartic and it was rewarding. And Michael Bublé, I worked with him on his first album. I've been friends with him for a long time. We had dinner. I said, look, I've got to do my way. And I don't want to do it alone. I'm sick of hearing myself do it, for 5 minutes. I said, come on board. And they said, yeah. One. Then TikTok, I've got a whole new fan base. I'll never understand it. I do, and I like TikTok. But one day a bunch of kids show up at my door, 15, 16-year-olds, because my son is 16. And they start singing, put your head on my shoulder. I don't know how they know it, and I don't know why they're at my house. And they said, TikTok, TikTok. I'm going, TikTok, that's 4:00. No, TikTok, you're on TikTok. Anyway, I look at TikTok, and I get it. Now you've got Put Your Head on My Shoulder that I wrote when I was 17, 18. And these kids have discovered it, and they're doing everything with it. The silhouette, they're singing it, and I'm going, wow, I got to do Put Your Head on My Shoulder. I don't want to sing that for myself. I'm sick of hearing that too. So now one thing goes to another, and through a friend, Olivia Newton-John was available, and I called her up. A gracious woman, a great artist, and a courageous person. This woman, with everything she's dealing with, goes into a studio, She records Put Your Head on My Shoulder, and it's one of the tracks. And it goes to #1 on Amazon. So that was a big kick. I get El Divo to do Destiny with me. The rest are just all new songs. And it's out there and it's doing very well. So now we're going to put out a Christmas album and a Valentine's album based on that. And away you go. You know, you sit back and be grateful. Because my #1 occupation through the years with the COVID, #1, just staying healthy. Just staying healthy. That's all that it was about for me.
It's just a joy speaking with you, Paul Anka. God bless you.
Likewise.
Thank you for your time. Congratulations on the album and on everything, Making Memories. God bless you. To be continued, please. Thank you.
Please, please. I'm going to hold you to it, guys.
We're going to do it.